The Growing Up Brooklyn podcast is a Black Sarah Gaming production.
Welcome to the Growing Up Brooklyn podcast. I'm your host, Coach Ty. And on today's episode, we have another special guest. What attracted me to her bio, one, not only is she a developer of leaders and, she helps people with burnout and, career advancement. And I mean, I wish I had met her a couple of years ago when I burnt out at one of my jobs. But as life, goes, sometimes you got to go through stuff to get on to bigger and better things. But the main thing that attracted me to her profile was that she is someone that tells it like it is. And that's why I put on this shirt today that says, I'm so Brooklyn, because telling you what it is, or this is what we say, being real with somebody, that's so Brooklyn, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you what it is, whether you like it or not. We're going to be harsh, but direct, caring, and endearing. It's not meant to break you down, but it's meant to build you up. So I had to have her on the podcast. This is a shoot I've been waiting for a couple of months now, and I'm glad we were able to get it going. Represent yet another person from Never Ran, Never Will, Brownsville, Miss Julia Rock. I'd like to welcome her to the podcast. Welcome, Julia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Coach Ty. I'm just happy to be here. I don't get a chance that often to talk about my Brooklyn upbringing or being from Brownsville. So having an opportunity to really dig into it, I'm excited.
Yeah, and as I said in our pre-production meeting, I love when people can tell the foundation of their life and their upbringing and what got them started, because everybody sees today, and again, not the finished product, because the finished product is, of course, when the Lord calls us home. But this is the mid-level to our house. This is the main floor. This is the main part of our lives. But nobody sees that foundation that got us to where we are. So glad to have you on. Looking forward to hearing your story. And as I always open up the podcast, what is your earliest memory growing up in Brooklyn?
Man, there's so many. So my parents are West Indian from the island of Barbados, and we had neighbors who were also West Indian. And I remember being a kid and being in the backyard with my neighbors. And, I was too small at a certain point to get into the rough housing that my siblings were getting into, with the super soakers and the hoses and the water fights and so forth. But I just remember watching my older siblings until I was old enough to get involved. And then I just remember just running up and down the block with some of my friends. It was just, the thing about growing up in Brooklyn is they always talk about whether it's dangerous or whether it's whatever, they always have some story about that. But when you get to, especially when you're a kid, you don't really have a sense of that danger at all. You just
Right.
outside running around and running up and down the block to my friends' houses, not worried about who's outside, about getting kidnapped, nothing. It's just like you just running around having a good time as a kid. I mean, so those are the things that come to mind, just playing in the backyard and running up and down the block, getting in trouble because you were supposed to be inside an hour ago.
Right. That's right. Parents didn't play. When that street light came on, it was time to get your butt inside.
In the house.
With no hands on butts. And you brought up a good point, because when we're children, we don't know about the dangers or what people perceive of our neighborhoods. Because again, growing up, I'm from East New York, which is we're neighbors, so to say, Brownsville and East New York. And Brownsville and East New York have technically gotten a reputation of being bad neighborhoods to live in. So tell me, what have you seen in the changes in Brownsville recently? Like, what have you noticed and how much has changed from back then when you were growing up to how it is today?
Man, I mean, when I was a kid, there were a lot more kind of corner stores and Chinese restaurants and other things. And now I feel like there's a lot more of kind of the specialized shops and places where folks who may not be Black and brown would shop.
Right.
I'm seeing that. And then I'm seeing the changes in the housing, right? So there was a lot of projects, or we used to call them the PJs, right? There was a lot of PJs or a lot of different type of housing communities, and now there's more kind of higher end luxury apartments and luxury condos and stuff. I'm like, wow, we get luxury condos in Brownsville. What a time to be alive!
Right. And as I was telling you, down on Christopher Street in New Lots, they're building some pretty tall high. I wouldn't call it a high rise, but I think it's like a 10 to 12 floor building down there, which was crazy because the down around the BRC, you could just kind of see down into Tilden houses from Linden Boulevard, but now it's blocked by all
Mhm.
these structures that they're building. And it's like, man, like, is it going to get like, you would never foresee that Brownsville would end up being overcrowded, and it's going to get crowded down there. Like, it's just amazing how much Brownsville, East New York, has changed. Just even going down Linden Boulevard, it just looks totally different.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think back to then, I mean, people used to be hanging outside, and whether it's hanging on the corner, hanging outside, hanging in front the house. And I feel like the last time I was there, I don't know if it's just a different crop of people who live there or whatever,
Mhm.
but you just don't see, people hanging in front the house. Cause I mean, on my block, it was houses, and then everybody had like a gate or a
Mm,
fence for their
right.
driveway. And so I was used to walking home from school, and you see people in the front driveway hanging out by the gate, somebody calling at you or whatever. And now the last time I'm there, it's like even though the houses are still there, I don't feel the energy that used to be there. It's like I said, I don't know if it's just different people. They don't have as many kids. I don't know, but you just don't see as many people hanging outside the way that you used to.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think some of it is the people who lived there 20, 30 years ago. The kids are grown up and out of the house. But the other part is that the younger kids today just don't go outside. Like, they're
Right.
just indoor I call them air conditioned kids. Because if it ain't, think of it, 90 degrees in the summertime, we outside, you down the street from Betsy Head Pool, you had options, you said the holes, the super soakers. These kids don't, they're just indoors all day. Like, they just don't
Yeah.
understand, the value of going outside in relationships and things like that. So, you brought up a good point. Tell me you mentioned school. Tell me what was your school experience like? What schools did you go to, and were there any teachers or moments that really impacted you?
So I went to school. So I went to a Christian school all the way up through junior high. So I went to school in near Tilden. It was a school called Flatbush SDA school. I went there from first grade all the way to eighth grade. And so yeah, it's right around the corner from Tilden. So it was what Tilden High School. So that's where all the whenever it was an initiation and the Crips and the whoever was outside, they
Uh-huh.
made sure that we either left school early or whatever the
Wow.
case is to make sure that whatever gang activity was happening in the area that we wouldn't get caught up in that.
Right.
And
Right.
so that was up until junior high. And then high school, I went to one of the specialized science high schools. So I went to Brooklyn Tech. So
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. I'm a Brooklyn Tech grad.
what? No, that's finding
Yes.
this out on the podcast.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to Brooklyn Tech and graduated from there. So that, we're back in Brownsville. I mean, there weren't a lot of options to go to school. It's like what the high school of redirection, and that was like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
extent
Oh,
of it.
I
You
know
know,
about that school. Yeah.
and so. But I when I did the test, I got into tech, and so my sister actually she went to tech, and so it was cool for me to also go. So she graduated before the year before I got in.
What year did your sister graduate?
She graduated in 1998, and I started in 1999.
Okay, so you're after me. I'm class of '94.
Okay, okay, okay. And
Oh, that's what's
that
up.
look at us
Yeah,
tech
that's
grads. Look at us tech grads.
Oh, I'm gonna let you know right now. This podcast is going in the Tech alumni board because I had somebody else from Tech on that I found
Oh,
out during the podcast went to Tech, and
look
I
at
put it in
us.
the yeah. Listen, I tell people Brooklyn Tech grads are like the plague. We are everywhere,
Everywhere. No matter
everywhere.
where in the world you go, there's always a tech night.
Wow. See, that has made this podcast even that more extra special. Oh
I
my
love
God.
it.
So jumping in before I go back into your junior high school and elementary years, tell me about your experience in tech. Like, what did you enjoy most? Because I tell people what I enjoyed most about going to tech was it was so culturally diverse because I had white friends, I had Indian friends, I had Asian friends. And for me going into and that probably explains why you're so successful right now in your career because we learned at Tech how to deal with other cultures.
That's right.
And it wasn't like a school that was like Tilden, which would have been all minorities. We went to a culturally diverse school. So tell me about some of your experiences at Brooklyn Tech.
Yeah, I mean, you stated it right there. So the school that I went to, Flatbush SDA, I mean, that was primarily minority children, right?
Mhm.
Primarily Caribbean kids, Jamaican, Trinidadian, Guyanese, and so forth, and the occasional Black American. And so going to tech, it allowed me to be amongst people who were from different cultures and get used to it and learn how to navigate that, especially since I was a TLA major, so technology and liberal arts. major. And so that was where you also had a lot of diversity there. So I made a lot of friends. The first friend I had at that school was a white person. That was the very
Wow.
first friend. On my first day, I had nobody to sit at lunch with. And she and I sat together at lunch, and we sat together at lunch early on until we both started to find our own groups of friends. But that was the very first person. So it wasn't even a black person or anything like that. And so I would say my experience at tech was really learning how to nurture relationships
Mhm.
with people from other cultures, and for people who are willing to understand, who you are and and what background you come from. And also, I think even within my major, I was exposed to different things that you wouldn't normally be
Right.
exposed to in daily life. So I took a music class, a jazz class, I took a film class. So all of those things helped to broaden my
Yeah.
horizons so that by the time I graduated and I went to college, I had gotten out of the kind of the Brooklyn or Caribbean box,
Yes.
and I had just seen so much more. And then when I was at Tech, I also had a chance to do they had a trip to Italy. And so I was able to take a trip to Italy. And so being in high school, being able to go to
Yeah.
Italy and broadening your horizon so that by the time I went to college, I went to Temple in Philly. That's the college I went to. But
Mhm.
but again, that's a school with 20,000 kids.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to know how to mix and mingle with people who are from other cultures. So going to tech, it really set that foundation. And even now, just my music interests, my film
Uh-huh.
interests, all these things are so different because of what got started at Brooklyn Tech.
Yeah, yeah, and it's you're just hitting on so many key things that's bringing back good memories. Because even my graduating class, there's such a pipeline people don't know about between Brooklyn Tech and Temple. A lot of tech nights go to I
Yep.
know, shout out to Michael Worthen, shout out to my guy Charlie Lee. There's a bunch of people that I know, and I'm missing names, but they all went to Temple. Like when they all graduate, went down to Temple. Like such a pipeline.
There
Were
were a
there a lot of
lot of Temple kids, a lot of tech kids at Temple. Like one of my closest friends at Temple, we only kind of met briefly at Tech, kind of because we weren't exactly in the same circles, and then we got
right?
to Temple and was like, "Hey, you here too?" And so we got super super close.
Yeah, and I tell people tech. I think when I was in there was over 10,000 kids in tech, students at that time. I mean, now it's kind of watered down because they've not putting the emphasis on the specialized high schools like they should, and now you got all these pop up schools turning up. And I really wish people was make their kids take the specialized test. Brooklyn Tech is still as prestigious. It's a top 50 school in the nation. The
Mhm.
last time I looked was a couple of years ago. We were like number 22 in the nation. So
Mhm.
that's pretty high. I think we've slid back a little bit, but we're still a top 50 school in the nation. And that speaks volumes to, tech. Shout out to again to all of the tech nights that'll watch this. Like I said, this feels now this even feels more like home, knowing that I'm talking to a fellow tech night.
A fellow tech night. And the other thing about putting your kids through through a specialized science high school, again, it sets them up for additional levels of success, right? There's a
Yes.
certain level of rigor that goes in to studying and preparing for that. And then you're also around a group of kids who are striving for excellence, right? Because
Yes.
you had to take a test to get in. And that's why we
Yeah.
used to make fun of people who was trying to be gang banging. And it's like, my G, you took a test to get in here. Like, who are you trying to fool right now? And so for students who are looking for that level of excellence even
Yeah.
before they get to college, this sets the tone where it's like you have to study and you're going to be around a group of students who are also striving to be successful, right? Because you didn't
Correct.
just slide in here. You had to really study to get in.
Correct. And to your point, I found it crazy when they had like a truancy in tech. I was like, why are you even here? Like, why do you waste the time to your point, to take the test, to come to the school, to not come to school? Like,
Don't make no
heck,
sense.
like you could have went to Thomas Jefferson was the zone high school for my area. You could have went to Jeff if you was
Right.
going to mess around with your 4 years. Like, you don't come to tech and do that. So
Right. There are plenty of schools around where you did not have to take a test. So and again, so for parents who are thinking about that or who are listening, it's like if you're thinking about how do I set my kids up for success in college, don't wait till junior or senior year of high school to try to get them together. If you can get them into a school that is, for folks who are living in Brooklyn, if you can get them into a tech or a Bronx Science or a Stuyvesant or something, that sets the rigor and the discipline ahead of time, because it's like you got to
Correct.
study to get in here, and you got to get good grades to get out of here. So, and the work is going to be at a
Yeah.
different level of difficulty.
Correct. And you hit on the key point. Make sure you send them Stuyvesant last. Stuyvesant is always the last choice.
Always last, always last.
So you talked about, taking some jazz classes and different types of music. So what role did music, fashion, and food play in your upbringing?
I mean, I grew up in a house of music. My parents are Seventh Day Adventist Christians, so there was a lot of Christian music coming from
Yeah.
my parents for sure. But my older brother was a big Jay-Z fan, and so some of the earliest memories I have of music were riding around in my brother's car listening to music. So, when people talk about Jay-Z's number one album or their favorite album, they always say Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah.
But for me, my first album that my brother ever played was Volume 1
In
in
my
my
lifetime. Yeah.
lifetime. So
Yeah.
that for me, that's my favorite album. I mean, Reasonable Doubt, love it. Dead Presidents 2, all the things, right? But Volume 1, it sticks out of my mind because that's what shaped me with my brother, and that's I think about that quality time with him. But Brooklyn also just had its own swag. I mean, in terms
Of
of
course.
what people will wear, what people wore to school, like it's just we set ourselves apart. And even though I couldn't afford certain things, I just remember begging my dad for, like, I just want one pair of Guess jeans. I want to wear the Guess jeans to school. And I remember when I finally had my Guess jeans, and I thought I was so fly
Mhm.
going to school. And then you wanted to have a certain backpack, you wanted to have a certain, and then when you got to senior year, you wanted to have a certain shoulder bag you were wearing to school. Like all of those things, like, helped to give me my own little edge by the time I got out of high school. So I would say, fashion, all that, Brooklyn has its own energy. And that to this day, I think is what sets me apart in terms of how I view things, how I view the world, because Brooklyn is just like we have our own way of doing things. We can't do things the way everybody else do. We can't dress the way the other people dress. Our music
Exactly.
is
Oh my
unique.
God. Yes.
How we talk is unique. Yeah, I mean, so there's just all of those things. We had a unique energy around it, and I feel like I take that with me everywhere I.
And, then to your point, so I have a group of friends that I game with, and they're always saying pause, pause, pause. I'm like, dude, that's Harlem. We're from Brooklyn. We don't do that. We don't copy what everybody else do. We
Ever.
we are trendsetters, and even our fashion, like, and I coach girls basketball here in Florida, and people be like, Coach, man, you stay dressed in your shoes, match your shirt, match your pants. I said, that's Brooklyn, that's New York. I can't
Always.
do it no other way. I mean, these young kids today, and they're in school in a hoodie, some sweats, and some Crocs. I'm like, where's your sense of fashion? Like, how do y'all just come to school like y'all just rolled out of bed? Like, I don't get these kids today because, like you said, we took pride in what we put on, making sure our hair was cut, making sure we looked neat, making sure our clothes looked a certain way, ironed.
Mhm.
We didn't look like we just got out of bed. We looked like we took some time, like we were up 2 hours getting dressed to go to school. Like that's the pride that we took in how we look.
Like truly taking pride in how we look. And and I'm not gonna front for the folks on the pod. I'm not gonna say like I had money or anything like that.
No.
But whatever we did have, we still made sure that we looked the part. So if we were shopping at Bobby's or Payless or any
Mhm.
of those things around the
Yeah.
corner, we still want to look the part. We still want to look good. And so as my parents would say, is that you want to make sure that when you go out that people respect you. And
Yes.
that was the big thing, is that is growing up in Brooklyn, is that when you go out, you want people to respect you, because being in Brooklyn is it's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's tough, I mean, just living in New York City in general, but especially in Brooklyn, it's tough. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of things, a lot of influences that can come at you. And so you have to command respect with how you go outside. And if you look like you just got out of bed, or you don't look like you take pride in your appearance, people think they can either punk you, or they think that you're not serious about life, or whatever the case is. And so you have to look the part.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And speaking of looking apart, Tell me about your experiences of shopping on Pickens Avenue in Belmont. Because I used to, again, being from East New York, when you had to get school fly, you either went to Kings Plaza or you went to Pickens and Belmont. Tell me about your experiences about Pickens and Belmont and maybe even Kings Plaza or shopping downtown Brooklyn.
Man, so King I'll talk about Kings Plaza first because I think they changed the bus route, but the old heads remember taking the B-78 bus all the way to Kings Plaza. You gotta, take Ralph Avenue,
Yeah.
taking it to Kings Plaza. Only the old heads are gonna know. And then going there, you would go to the movie theater and
Hmm.
we would go shopping. There was a Rainbow that was in there and some other stores. So when
Hmm.
you have a little bit of money, you go shop at the Rainbow. You could go to the movies in there. So that was the big Kings Plaza thing. And then shopping on Pickin, there was so many stores on Pickin because there was Bargain Hunters, Bargain
Hmm.
Center, all of those. And so depending on what you needed, you were
Right.
stopping at different places along Pickin Avenue. And then downtown Brooklyn, shopping on Fulton.
Hmm.
There were definitely different stores there. So depending on what your need was, how much money you had, and where you wanted to be seen, that's what drove where you shop. So as a kid, we was always on Pitkin. And then as I became a teenager, and I was like, okay, we could venture out
Yeah.
to Kings Plaza, take the
Hmm.
bus by yourself and go. And then, especially when I got into tech, since I was already downtown Brooklyn,
Right.
you could go and shop on Fulton Street because then you see people from school, you look in the park, you see who's outside. So man, there's a lot of shopping stories that blend into, you want to be seen by other people, right? Because you had the Jimmy Jazz on
Yep.
Fulton and
Hmm.
all those stores. And so you want to go in and it's like, who's shopping at Jimmy Jazz? Who's shopping at VIM and all these places? So, but like I said, only the old heads are go remember this.
And it's crazy that you said this. When you was talking about the bus, I thought you was going to say the 46 bus because that's the bus we used to take the 6 to the 46 because that 78 bus was a long wait. If you missed that bus ran like an out of town bus. Like if you missed that bus, you were waiting like a damn hour for that bus to come. So because sometimes again, when we wanted to take different routes from my end of East New York, you get off by South Shore High School right on Flatlands
Oh
and
yeah.
Ralph. And then you had the diner right there. So you can miss the bus, go eat in the diner, sit down, wait, and then still come out and catch the bus because that's how long. So I applaud you for taking the 78 bus because that was a painful route because they didn't run a lot of
Painful.
buses up and down that Ralph Avenue line. Oh
Yeah,
my.
no, the 46 was definitely faster, but for whatever reason, we wanted to take the B-78 bus and get there. But like you said, it was a long wait to get it.
And I don't know if I'll be Square Mall is gone. Tore it down. They tore down that. When was the last time you was downtown Brooklyn?
Hold on, cuz Albee Square, was that where Atlantic Center was?
No, Atlantic Center. So Atlantic Terminal, all that by the clock is also there. Those shopping malls are still
Yeah,
there by the
so that's
Barclays.
there.
The Abbey
And then
Square
you have
Mall was going down Fulton Street. When you got about halfway down Fulton, when you got past Nevins, or past Junior, when you pass Junior's coming up from DeKalb, it was
okay.
right past Junior's. And you go up DeKalb and right on the right, there was a little mall that was there that had a downstairs, a main level, and upstairs. That was Albee Square Mall, and they tore it down.
Man, so cuz I mean, I've been back to Brooklyn quite a bit, but I guess because I hadn't really checked to see if it was still there, but that's crazy. Man.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've been around the Brooklyn Academy of Music. It's all high-rise buildings.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Gentrification, creeping back, man.
Listen, a three bedroom apartment downtown Brooklyn right now will run you almost $4,600.
And the funny thing is people ask me all the time, they're like, Jay, would you move back to Brooklyn? And I said, I don't have Brooklyn money.
Right.
I
Exactly.
don't have Brooklyn money. I do not have 5 grand to go and live in a shoebox in Brooklyn. As much as I love Brooklyn, as much as I love home, I love the
Mhm.
food, I love all the things, I'm not paying 5 grand to live there. I will go and visit. I will see my people. We can link up and then I'm getting on a plane to go back home to someplace more affordable. It's like if the prices come down, maybe I will come back. But right now I can't I don't have Brooklyn money. I don't have Brooklyn
Exact.
money.
Listen, when I go back, I get, my kids, I have family still up there, my grown kids up there. I get pizza, I get White Castles, and then I'm ready to go.
Okay,
That's
wait,
it.
wait, wait. We gotta have this question. Where are you going for pizza in Brooklyn? We got because I want to see if you legit. Where you going for pizza in Brooklyn?
So, but see, there's an old school spot on Pennsylvania between Workman and Cozine. There's a pizza family. They've owned that pizza shop for years. I would always stop there, but if I was downtown Brooklyn, there's a pizza shop right on the corner, I think by the Hoyt Street station.
Okay.
I always, if I'm downtown, that's where I'm going for pizza. That pizza was so good. I mean, you had Not Raised that was not too far from Tech. That was, I just wasn't. I'm not into the like the name brand like that. I always like the little mom and pop. But the last time I was downtown, I went down to Hoyt and Fulton. There's a pizza shop, like small shop right there on the corner, and I've always gotten pizza there. Even when I was in Tech, I would walk down there and get some pizza.
But I will say some of the best pizza in Brooklyn, you gotta go to Bensonhurst. I know it's a truth,
No.
but because my family, we went to church in Coney Island,
Oh,
and
okay.
so we would be able to go on the way home. We would know if we would get pizza or not, depending on where my dad turned. And
Mhm.
so you would go to Bensonhurst and get some of the best pizza. So for folks who are from Brooklyn, I know Bensonhurst is the truth, but that's where the Italians and the mafia is at. So if you want good pizza, you gotta go out of Bensonhurst. But there's also some places in Flatbush too,
Mhm.
where you could get some good pizza. But man, when we wanted good pizza, man, my dad would take us out to Bensonhurst after church on the weekends, and them
That's what's
Italians
up.
out there knew what to do.
Listen, they throw it down. They throw it down. I worked for Brooklyn Union Gas later on, and there was some good spots in Bensonhurst. I can
Mhm.
attest to that. And Sunset Park was my go to spot for Spanish food. I love the
Okay.
Spanish food in Sunset Park, Third Avenue, and I think the Ninth Street, something like that. There was this restaurant down there. Oh my God, the food was so. I hope they're still there. Actually, I'm going back up. I go back up 2 or 3 times a year. I'm going to go back. I'm going to see that restaurant down there is open because I mean, the last time I went, I did the whole tourist experience. I went to the Nets game. I went to the Barclays. I did. I felt like a tourist in Brooklyn. Like first time I ever felt like that.
Man, so I went to the Drake concert in 2023, and I stayed downtown Brooklyn and that kind of thing. And so
Mhm.
going and seeing everything that was built up down there, because the other times I had been to New York, I had only been in Manhattan because I had been there to speak or some events. Going to the concert for fun, I had a chance to really walk around downtown Brooklyn, be on Fulton Street, go around the Barclays Center, go to Atlantic Terminal. It was just like, man, it brought back so many memories, but you also
Yes.
felt like a tourist because it's like, there's so many things here now. Like, when did
Right.
this shopping center come here? And when did this grocery store come here? So having the tourist experience in your own hometown is crazy.
Yeah, listen, I tell people all the time, like, there's no place like Brooklyn. There's no
And
place like I would ever rather be. And, just going through, like I said, just walking through downtown or when I'm back in East New York or driving through, it just, I mean, you can't even explain it. You know what I'm saying? You just can't explain what it is to grow up. So let me ask you this. Were there any local traditions, festivals, or community events in Brownsville that kind of stood out when you were growing up? Now, I do want a Labor Day parade story, but anything before you get to the Labor Day parade,
I'm
anything
trying to
else
I'm
prior to
trying to
that?
see if there was anything in Brownsville specifically. 'Cause I lived on the good Christian blocks, so we didn't have as many type of things as maybe some of the blocks
Right.
kind of further past Sutter. So I was gonna immediately talk about Eastern Parkway Labor Day parade because
All right,
that I
come on,
mean
jump into it. Come on, what? Give me
that's
a good
that's a
Labor
turn
Day
on.
parade story.
Man, well, I'm trying to think. So this one I had to hear secondhand, but my homegirls, they went to Juve the night before because I was
Hmm.
gonna meet them for the Labor Day parade. But they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go out to Juve." But again, my parents were Christian. They're like, "You only go into one thing. You can't go to both." And so my friends went out the night before to Juve, and when we were getting dressed the next day, I was like, "So how was it? What happened?" They're like, "Girl, there was a shootout at Ju." I was like, so on brand. I'm like, why we can't just celebrate and have a good time? But there was always something happening at Juve for whatever reason. I don't know if people got their act together by the time they got to the Parkway, but there was always some story happening at Juve. But yeah, when I think about my times on the Parkway, it was just I mean, it was just fun. It was just fun. And this is no tea or shade to Americans, but what I found was that when it was primarily West Indian people who were going, but it was a lot of just dancing and
Mm,
you could dance with whoever and it was no one was getting assaulted and all those kinds of things. Or those stories were a lot more rare. And
right.
then over the years, where a lot more folks who were American they started to go, and I feel like there was a shift in the culture there.
Yeah.
And again, this is
Yeah.
no tea or shade to any Americans listening. I'm not trying to shade you, but we just saw the change in the night in the dynamic, and so after a while, we didn't go as often. But
Right.
man, it was just fun, just staying out late, coming home, and you're covered, and you've got paint, you've got oil, you've got powder, and you're just and the thing is that one year I went and I bought a brand new pair of Constructs. A brand new
Oh,
pair of
that's true.
Constructs.
Wait,
For
wait, wait,
those
wait, wait. Hold on. Wait.
Yes, so Constructs are a pair of Timberland boots, and they look like construction worker boots because of the color of the tan or the light tan color of them. And so in Brooklyn, we for short, we called them
Control.
Constructs. And so one year, I'm here thinking I'm fly with my new pair of Constructs on, going to the park with my little ripped up shirt, my little Bayesian flag, and I'm out here going, only for it to start raining. And so all of the dye in my blue jeans
Oh
get
man.
onto my brand new
Mhm.
pair of Constructs. I never was so sad in my life because I got home and it's like you can't save your Constructs after they got blue
Nah,
dye all
they're
over them. So
done. Yeah, they're done.
so I had those boots all of a week because I bought them to go with the outfit for
Mhm.
Labor Day, and I was fly. I was fly, and then it rained, and I wasn't fly no more. But we had fun. We had fun. So
Yeah, listen, and when you said construct, I was like, man, I haven't heard that word. I haven't heard that term in so long. Because again, being in Florida, these kids don't. I mean, actually, I have a basketball player. I tell her she dresses. I think she watched like old Mary J. Blige videos because she dresses like early '90s Mary J. She has the jersey, the cut off jeans, and the
I love
constructs.
it.
And that's what I told her. I said you were born in New York in another life somewhere. Like
I love it.
you were definitely in New York. So when you said constructs, that kind of just I kind of just took me back for a second because again, we have the beef and broccolis, we have the 40 below Tims, like we have different names that we
The
call it. But when you
macaroni and
said
cheese.
macaroni and cheese. So when you said constructs, I automatically knew what you was talking about. So and
Man,
like you said, now this for those out there, if you're still into constructs and you are younger generation, make sure that you waterproof your boots. Get your nice waterproofing that you lay over, you spray it, you lay over the top of it. That way you don't get you can clean them a little bit easier. It won't prevent the dye from destroying your Tims, but at least it'll save you some time though. So because
yeah.
these kids don't again they outside in Crocs and they wear shorts all year round. Now I'm like, where the hell do they do that? Like, just
Nah, because you had to. I mean, and that was the thing. Like, especially growing up, you wait for the fall because you looking for to see what the dudes have on. They got the jeans and the Tims, and they have the whole look. And so that was just. I mean, we as women were waiting for the fall season to see the swag, that fall and winter to see what men would have on with
yeah.
sweaters, the Coogee sweaters when they were in, and wearing those to school. And so I don't the swag nowadays, I don't know if it's the pandemic. I don't know. I
No,
just
no, no, no. It wasn't the
anything
pandemic. It was even before the pandemic because again, my youngest son, when he would dress, I just saw that he just covered his eyes and just reached and grabbed whatever he can grab in the closet. And, I mean, he's got a little bit. He's grown into his style a little bit more now. But like I
okay.
said, I just pride my like I'll go to the store and I still my sweats and my shirt, everything has to match. Like I have to look a certain way. So
Yeah. Always, always. And again, it's nowadays I think there's just a little bit more acceptance around. Well, just wear what you want, wear what you feel, and so forth. And I'm like, I didn't grow up that way. It's like if you wore what you feel, you like people were joking on you in
but-
school. I mean, I've gotten joked on for sneakers that I wore that weren't up to par, or whatever the case is. Or if you if you wore the same shirt or the same jeans, people would be like, "Didn't you wear them jeans already?" Like people were on you.
On
So
it.
so, so it's
Hmm.
it's crazy to see now where it's like, "Oh, just wear what you feel. Just show up how you feel." I'm like, nah, that didn't fly back in the day, man.
So, one last question. What is the one piece of Brooklyn you carry with you no matter where you go?
Well, tangibly, as I carry my cell phone number. I still have a 347 number. But
I have a 646 number.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. But in terms of what I carry with me is it's really the no fear, like, and the idea that nobody's better than you. So yeah, I just feel like when you are from Brooklyn, it's just you just have this energy like ain't nobody better than you, can't nobody step to you. And so when I show up on stage as a keynote speaker or as I'm doing or I'm leading a workshop or I'm talking to clients, it's just this energy that you carry, this certain level of confidence that can't nobody shake from you. It doesn't
That's
matter
right.
what happens. It's like, I tell people all the time, I'm from Brooklyn. I don't care. Like, nothing you say is going to hurt my feelings. I'm not going to cry. Like, I'm from Brooklyn. Whatever you got, I've probably heard worse.
Right.
So, and then it just goes back to the ability to just tell it like it is, not mincing words with people, because that has really helped me in how I coach people.
Right.
Because a lot of coaches will coddle you and make you feel good about yourself, but they're not really helping you reach a certain level of transformation. And so what I have introduced into all of my with all of my coaching is, we hold space for whatever moment you're having, whatever you're going through, but then I come to like, do you want change or no? Like, I mean, and so the Brooklyn has to come out like, well, okay, we held space, we gave you the time, but now it's either like you either want to move forward or I'm not the coach for you. And so that's something I also carry with me because again, like you said at the very beginning, it's caring, but it's also about I'm not gonna spare your feelings
Right.
to make you feel good about yourself when it's especially if it's like you need to make a change or there's a shift that you need to make. So I would say those are the main things I carry with me.
It's funny, and again, you touched upon a lot of good stuff because when I was a manager, when I worked in cable, when I was a manager, I used to tell people, "Do you want the Atlanta truth or do you want the Brooklyn truth?" Because I can make some fluff, and I'm gonna fluff it like Atlanta. But if you want the hardcore, like I'm tell you like it is, straight shooter, then you want the Brooklyn truth. Ty, I want the Brooklyn truth. I want everybody wants the Brooklyn truth because I think that to your point, they appreciate, we know what hard is and we
Right.
know how to handle hard well. And a lot of people don't handle hard well, but your situation isn't as bad as you think. And like you said, I grew up in the project. We were poor. There was 7 of us at the time in the house. It was 5 kids, no, 8. 5 kids, my parents and my grandmother all in the 2-bedroom apartment. Like for most people that's hard, but
Right.
we made, like I said, the most fun of it. We didn't know, if our block was bad or if this was bad, or I mean, we knew the guys in the neighborhood not to hang around, but for the most part, we just knew how to have a good time and just be kids and enjoy ourselves. And I just wish people can really see, the world from the lens of a person that grew up in Brooklyn, and they would just see a whole different. You just have a whole different perspective.
A whole different outlook on life. And I think one of the other things is something what you mentioned as well, is it learning how to just navigate when you don't have everything, right? So you don't always have everything at your fingertips. I mean, in the
Yeah.
society that we have now, people are just used to instant gratification and getting whatever they
Yes.
want whenever they want. And I feel like with growing up in Brooklyn, you grow up with a certain level of grit because of the fact that you don't always get what you want. And so you're willing to work hard for what you want, but you don't fall apart and cry because you didn't get what you want at that moment. It's like, all right, if that's what you want, then how you gonna get it, right? And so, and whether it's the street hustlers, the street pharmacists, you learn from them
Mhm.
because they had a whole setup, or people who are doing it the legit way.
Right.
The mindset was always like, if there's something I want, I gotta go after. I gotta work. I gotta push. I gotta have the grit. I can't sit here and cry about not getting what I want. I just gotta go get it.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Let the people know where they can find you. I can't wait. I'm going to look up some of your motivational talks because, again, that Brooklyn Tech connection is just like, wow. Like you said, when you said that, and I was just like it just because again, we didn't talk about it
At
pre-production, and we
all.
didn't even exchange that when we were setting up the interview. And when you just dropped that bombshell, it was like, oh, this interview is going to be great. Like this, I mean, I knew it was going to be great, but it took it to the umpteenth power for those tech nights that, for the geometry nerds like us.
Yes.
It just took this podcast to another level. So, but tell everybody where they can find you, where they can hear you speak and talk. Give them your information.
Absolutely. So you can find me at the Julia Rock on LinkedIn. Well, Julia Rock on LinkedIn, but on Facebook and Instagram and Threads, it's at the Julia Rock, one word. And then on LinkedIn, which is one of my bigger platforms, it's just Julia Rock is the handle, so you should be able to find me. And then if you want to get in touch with me and have any questions, it's hello@rockcareer.com is the email address. So folks can email me directly and I can answer any questions.
Yeah, listen, I got a circle. I need to start linking up together because June and I've been saying this, but I had, like I said, I told you I had a little setback. But there's a circle of people that I've had on as guests, and I need to link you in with them because, like I said, one thing about Brooklyn, we also take care of our own. And if we can network
Always.
and we can pull somebody up instead of giving them a foot down, we're definitely going to do that. So there's some people I got to link you up with. But Julia, this has been an amazing podcast. And like you said, people that know you, when people know you in the professional world and then they get to see you outside and then our Brooklyn accents come out, they're like,
Yeah.
oh no, you're not from here. I'm like, no, I'm from
No,
New York. I'm from Brooklyn. Like, you're going to hear it.
It's so funny because when I've gone to speak at events and people are just like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm originally from Brooklyn." Like, you don't sound like it. And then you start saying something like water, gets
Water.
office, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I hear it now." Because initially they don't hear it, but then as soon as you say certain words or whatever the case is, they're like, "Okay, I get it now. I know where you're from."
or when we're around somebody else from Brooklyn and we get that level of excitement, like our energy just turns up. Like, we know how to match each other's energy. We just turn up, and then you
Always.
start hearing the Brooklyn come out. So again, to all your friends and family, and your professional friends, that when they see this, they can be like, "Girl, you definitely from Brooklyn. We definitely can hear all that Brooklyn in you." Oh
All of the
man.
Brooklyn accent that they don't get to hear on a regular basis. So thank you for having me and allowing me to share this piece of my energy with the world. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And as we always like to end the podcast, you could have spent your time doing anything else in the world, but you spent it with us, and we appreciate it. Big up Brooklyn. Your way out. Peace.
That's a wrap for today's Growing Up Brooklyn podcast episode. Be sure to like and hit that subscribe button.